Good morning, everyone. This is Makram El-Amin with Makram's Motivational Messages, and I'm here actually at a beautiful retreat center this weekend, I should say, and really just reflective this morning before I start my day, and wanted just share a couple of ideas. Many of you may know that I'm working on a three-part series right now on the tests of life, and we began to study and discuss this idea of loss and how do how do we experience loss? And we all have losses in many various aspects of our lives, and I think that this is a fact of life that you're going to in fact lose things. Things are going to get away from you, and but I'm really reflective on a particular text from our scripture, the Quran, where God gives us really five measures. I'm not just saying this is every which way, but in this particular passage, discusses five ways that we would lose, and whether He would challenge us or test us. And He said one of them is by fear. Fear being the great paralyzer for many. Become overcome with fear. That this in and of itself is a test that we have to contend with in this life. You will be fearful. Sometimes there's a natural fear of things. If there was a tiger in this room, I would be fearful of that tiger. And I think that because that tiger could potentially harm me, sometimes it's a good and healthy fear of things that could provide imminent danger, put us in imminent danger, etc. But there's also some fear that we conjure up in our minds, things that we make bigger than what they should be. And these are the things that really put us in a really disadvantage in terms of trying to move ahead and to make progress, etc. in our life. So fear is a test, and one that must be overcome in our lives as well. The other is what he calls hunger. Hunger can be seen in many ways as desire, but even from a perspective of even scarcity. When a person's hungry and they think they don't have enough resources, sometimes it may even drive them or push them to cut corners on things, to cheat a little bit, to take things that are not theirs, or even to hoard resources if they feel that they don't have enough. This idea of this scarcity is really a concept that there's not enough. There's just not enough. And when I have a sense of hunger about them, that makes me approach things in a different way than if I approach it from an abundance mindset, that there's plenty, there's enough for everyone, etc. So this idea also is a challenge and a test for us, that even in times of hunger, desperate situations and hunger, how are we then? How are we then? The loss of wealth, the loss of money. It also is the third category that is mentioned in this passage of the tests that we will have to endure in life. I mean, money will get away from us, in a world that is very, I would say, hypersensitive and very much focused on money and resources and assets and things of that nature, that could really dominate our focus in many ways and take us away from the true essence of who we are. This also can be a test in life. We would have loss of life. We would lose those who are close to us. We'd be challenged in our own health in many respects, and trying to live a good and balanced life means to approach our health in a way that sustains life and keeps life going. But we will lose in life, either our lives, which ultimately all of us will do, but even those who are close to us. And how are we then? How are we then? How do we reflect then on life being the cycles of life? When we're born, we live, we have a duration. None of us know how much time we have, and thank goodness, because that in and of itself would be really a great burden. Can you imagine knowing how many days you'll actually live? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that, how much of a burden that would actually be on you? And counting down the days, you're watching the calendar, watching the clock, watching time. Takes a whole different meaning when you would actually know. So I think it's a mercy from God that we don't know, and we live every day as that our life. But we will have the losses of life. And that will also be a challenge in this life and a test from God. And also, you just, decide the fruit of our labor, things that we work on, things that become our baby in this life, a project, an organization, a business, whatever the case may be, things that we put our effort, our energy into. God says that we will lose. And there'll be times where we lose. So I'm not trying to say that, we should just be so okay with loss and just, kind of, laissez-faire about how we go about our lives. If we lose it, we lose it. No, I mean, that's not the reality that I'm trying to suggest to us. What I am saying is that when we're going through these things, when we're experiencing loss on whatever, any of these levels, that we really approach them with a level of perspective, a level that says that, yes, these things, all these things, these wonderful things, and whether it's that happen in life and we experience, etc., all these things are really transitory. These things they will come and they will go. God says to us that those who when they experience these losses of these conditions, they're reminded and they say, to God we belong, and to Him is our return. That everything belongs to God, everything, including our very selves, our very lives. The money we may have, the wealth we may have amassed, all these things, everything. God wants us to have a reliance upon Him over all of these matters. So even when we experience a loss, they say those who are staying true to faith and trying to have the priorities in the right places, they say, from God we come. To God is the source of all things, and it's to Him is our return. This is a saying, a statement that we verbalize, even when we're in the midst of experiencing some loss. That helps us to keep some perspective. It helps us to stay the course. It helps us to keep the main thing the main thing. God says of those, He said, it is those who will receive blessings and mercy and guidance through these difficult times. Those who are able to keep loss and challenges and tests in perspective. Remember, everything in life is transitory. It's all temporary. It's all temporary. Nothing is permanent in this life. It all comes. It has a beginning. It has a duration, and it has sunsets. It goes away. But what God gives us is lasting. So I wanted just to leave you with this message of understanding the tests of life and how we will experience certain things, but even during these difficult and challenging times, keeping the focus on God and keeping your relationship with God is of utmost importance so that we may come out on the other side victorious. That we come out on the other side with success and with a perspective for success. So I leave you with that, my dear people. It's wonderful to always message with you and to connect. And until we meet again, be great.